Hi everyone, in this video we would like to present some new features for the Onboard Assistant who has just been published, and that's version 10. So the number one change is the way it can be connected with Expedition, so we will demonstrate that now. So to start with, you want to start the Onboard Assistant the normal way. I've even already got a day start and a sales up, and immediately head to the options and the Expedition settings. Now, this will have changed quite a lot. Now, once you open the window, the first thing you really want to do is click on the Help button, and that will open a notepad giving you exact step-by-step instructions on how to configure your Expedition and the Onboard Assistant, as well as all the variables that you select. So if we go back in here, the first thing I need to do is to click Enable UDP. Then I have configured my IPs and ports in the same way that was described in this in the document I just shown. And then if we move over to Expedition, you'll see that if I go to the instruments, I've got a network connection here, which I called Onboard Assistant, and now the type must be Expedition, type UDP, and you can specify a receive and a transmit port. Just follow the instructions, and also make sure that in the Expedition settings, if you go to the TX filter, you have selected at least the variables that were specified in this file. Now, this should all be configured now. So if I go back into Expedition, I can actually click Reconnect, and we can now see data streaming. Now, one good indicator that communication is going correctly back and forth between Onboard Assistant and Expedition is this little heartbeat that we can see here bottom right. But you can also go to the Data tab, and there you should see data that is getting refreshed. We've got a true and dear magnetic that's changing. It tells you when it was last seen. You can see we're also getting the start marks here. And the only one that's missing is a time to gun, but that's only fair enough because, as you see in Expedition, we don't have a gun that's been started yet. Now, remember also to go in the options and select everything that you want to do through Onboard Assistant rather than directly in Expedition. Once this is all set up, we're back in the main screen of the Onboard Assistant, and you will notice a slightly different setup now. We have this new button, Racing, so let's click on that. And so the major novelty here is that you can now prepare a race in advance and actually tell Onboard Assistant that you want it to ping some of the events automatically. If you want to keep using the old way, make sure you use this race leg deprecated button. So let's immediately go in there and have a look at how it's configured. So we're going to prepare a race. So once again, when we're preparing a race, because we have Expedition, you can see this little heartbeat here, which is confirming that there is good connection between the two software. Now, first thing that you're going to set is which race number we are about to go into. As you can see here, we've selected a windward leeward. Now, a little side comment, if you decide if you're about to do a practice start and not an official race, it'll still be labeled as 1 here, but as this note tells you, in the event file, it will be stored as a race 101, so as to differentiate practice starts and actual races. For now, let's go to windward leeward. Now, one thing you can do is, because there's communication between Expedition and Onboard Assistant, you can actually ask Onboard Assistant to go and get the marks that were pinged in Expedition. You get confirmation here and the values here. Now, the advantage of doing that is that these marks will actually be stored in the Onboard Assistant event file, which means that eventually when you run race replay with this event file, you will no longer have to go look for those marks in an Expedition log. They will already be there. But you can also use this feature to ping the marks. Say, for instance, you're currently in the pre-start, and you've got just have maybe a small tablet as a screen, and it's hard to switch back and forth between Onboard Assistant and Expedition. You're welcome to use this little interface here to actually do the pinging of the marks. Right, so we got a race number, we got some marks, we chose a race type. Now here we can actually click on configure, and you are asked to give a little description of what type of windward leeward course that'll be. How many laps are you going to go around? Is the top mark, does it have a dog leg? Are you rounding the marks to ports? Is the bottom mark a gate or not? And if you have expedition communication enabled, and in the options you said, I want to ping courses through OnboardAssistant, you have this interface here, which resembles quite closely the one you would get in Expedition when setting up a windward leeward course, with the range of the windward mark, its bearing, whether there's an inner windward mark, since there's a gate, how far the gate is above the start line, and is there a finish line? Is the finish line on either side of the start mark? So it's exactly the same, just select the settings and click send, and that will be reflected in Expedition. Here's another cool feature. You will, with this new feature, you will still have to ping when you're going around marks. OnboardAssistant cannot guess that, but what it can do is, because at every mark you're most probably going to change sails, you can actually pre-configure that. So let's do this now. Click Add Sail Changes Automatically. And we are now going to configure that. So we've already told it it's a windward leeward with a dog leg, which is why the first leg is upwind, then you got reaching, then you got downwind, upwind, reaching again for the second dog leg, and the final leg downwind to the finish. And in this interface, we can tell it that on the first leg, we're going to be using the J1. But most probably we're going to be using the J1 in the pre-start, and for that matter, we are telling it to ping a J1 up event 3 minutes before the start of this upwind leg. Next event is going to be that we're past the top mark and we're going to be on this reaching dog leg. In this case, we'll tell it we'll still have the J1 up, so probably no need to ping anything. So just set it 0 seconds before we start the reaching. In effect, OnboardAssistant will just ignore this and say, well, no change. But then we are going to the downwind leg, and usually what happens, so you pass this dog leg mark, and it'll take, maybe this is a big boat, it'll take about 30 seconds to get the A1 up. So by the way you do this is you can actually click on the sail, on the this button, and then select which sail is going to go up. And then here we'll tell it, well, 30 seconds after rounding this dog leg, we'll put the A1 up. Coming down to the bottom mark, so this is a gate, and we'll say that 15 seconds before passing the gate, let's put a J1 up. We get to the top once again. Maybe let's say that at the bottom mark, we think the wind is going to go up, so we will increase, the wind is going to increase, so maybe we'll go to the J2. This is more as a demo. So if we are on the J2 on the upwind leg, we're probably also going to be on the J2 on the reaching leg. Here we go. And then the final downwind, 30 seconds after passing the dog leg mark, we'll be back on the A2. And then there's also an option to tell OnboardAssistant to, once I ping that we passed the finish line, well, 30 seconds later, just drop whatever sail was up. In our case, it's going to be the A2, and by default, it's going to keep the main up. So click OK on that. We're all completely configured. I guess the one thing we still need to do is to set a start time. So we're given the option of selecting what we want to ping, 10, 6, 5, 4, 1, or start now. So you first select the time, and then whenever the gun goes for the 5 minutes, we can click set, or you can actually specify a start time. But for now, we'll say we're coming into the 5 minutes, or maybe we'll we'll say the start is now, because just for the demo purposes. So set that now. So that's done. The only thing that's missing is that we prepared this race. In fact, we're actually racing, but it's still inactive. So in order for OnboardAssistant to start pinging events, we actually need to activate this race. Done. And now if I close, immediately you can see that OnboardAssistant pinged some events, and we can double check that by going to the modify event part, and we can see that it's pinged the start time, and it already had a J1 up. We'd asked it to put J1 up 3 minutes before, but it was probably already up. And so what happens then is that it's enabled this button now, and because we're now going upwind, we are going to approach the top mark to start the dogleg. So this button shows up as enabled with the label start dogleg. When we do pass that, we'll click on start dogleg, and it's added a button, it's pinged an event pass dogleg. And as mentioned previously, there has been no change in the sail. And now we're on the dogleg, and let's say we are now starting the downwind. And we've now started the downwind. So interestingly enough, if I go into the modify events, it has pinged this dogleg mark, and it's already made an event which is still currently in the future, which is 30 seconds after passing the dogleg. It's already pinged an A1 up. And now we're going to do this for the entire race. Since we are now in the downwind, we've got a choice of going through the mark, the right or the left. And we can now carry on doing all these pingings. Now that we've passed the mark, we're back upwind. So the next event is going to be a start dogleg. Because I'm pinging so fast, you can see the obviously that's not very realistic. So we'd expect now to have this J1 up. But if we go in the modified events, it should probably be up there. Right gate. And yeah, the J1 up has not been pinged yet. Oh, it has, actually, it has, but it's been confused. Yeah, I'm just going too fast through it. But this is the J2 that it put up, is actually corresponds to passing this right mark gate. Obviously, this is not realistic pinging those marks that often. Anyways, when we're all completed our race, let's do that. Start the dogleg. We're now starting the downwind. And the last thing that's going to happen is that we are going to finish the race. So we're now going through the finish line. And last little check that in the events, the last event, which is still currently in the future, is dropping that A2 of the final downwind. So there you go. Here are all the new features. Once we're done with all that, obviously the next step would be to either go home or maybe prepare another race. Click on that, it's automatically proposed to put race number 2. This is currently inactive, and I now have to go through the exact same process, pinging the marks or maybe getting them from Expedition, configuring everything, activating the race, and off we go.